I still remember the exact moment I decided to believe in him. His name was Jake, ambitious, charismatic, and somehow, despite everything, I wanted to be the one to help him build his dreams. When we first met, he had nothing but a rough idea and a desperate hope to start his own marketing company. No clients, no office, no team, just him, a laptop, and his vision. From day one, I was there. I quit my part-time job to help him build his brand from scratch. I designed his logos, crafted social media posts, answered late-night emails, and even stayed up until 3 a.m. debugging his website. While he pitched ideas, I pulled the strings behind the scenes. Our little apartment became the command center, where his dreams slowly began to breathe. I wasn't just his girlfriend. I was his partner in every sense. I gave up weekends, dinners, and sleep just to see Jake succeed. I convinced friends to invest small amounts, reached out to every contact I had, and offered myself as the unpaid intern, project manager, and personal cheerleader. Then, one evening, Jake called me with what I thought was great news. He found his first employee. I was excited, imagining someone to share the workload, someone who could finally take some burden off our backs. But the person he hired was Emily, his ex-girlfriend, the woman who had broken his heart 2 years ago and left him shattered. I didn't say anything at first. He told me it was a business decision, that Emily had more experience and was the right fit for the role. He asked me to trust the process and said I was overthinking things. Yet, every time Emily's name came up, I felt my stomach twist. Was I just a girlfriend to Jake? Or was I his business partner? Why did he keep me out of the loop? And most of all, why did it hurt so much? I tried to push the doubts away, reminding myself that this was for the company, for the dream we had built together. But the more Jake grew closer to Emily professionally, the more distant he became with me personally. And soon, the signs started appearing: late meetings with Emily, secret phone calls, and hushed conversations that stopped when I entered the room. That's when I began to realize helping build his business wasn't enough. I wanted to be part of his future, not replaced by his past. At first, I kept telling myself to be patient. Jake had always been a bit secretive about his professional moves. I thought it was part of his strategy. But the distance grew like a slow-burning fire, consuming the warmth that had been there before. I went from being the one who stayed up late helping him write proposals to the one who barely got a goodnight text. Emily was everywhere, in meetings, on emails, even in casual conversations he would have with his friends. I remember the sinking feeling when I saw her name pop up on his phone during dinner. And when I asked, he said, "It's just business, business." The word echoed in my mind like a cold, sharp knife. One day, I finally confronted him. "Jake," I said, voice trembling, "why didn't you tell me you were hiring Emily? Don't I deserve to know who's coming into the business we started together?" He looked at me with tired eyes. "Emma, you have to trust me. This is about the company, not us. Emily knows the industry. She has experience I don't. You have to believe that this is what's best." But it didn't feel like the best. It felt like a betrayal. Like the foundation we built was crumbling beneath my feet. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's presence seemed to grow heavier in the office. And in Jake's life, she was the one he asked for opinions, the one he took to client meetings. Meanwhile, I was left at home, isolated from the business I had sacrificed so much for. I began noticing the small things: Jake's phone lighting up when Emily messaged, his distracted tone when I brought up our plans, the way he would sometimes avoid eye contact. One evening after a long day, I found myself scrolling through his email on his laptop while he was in the shower. I know it wasn't right, but I was desperate to understand. There it was, a string of messages between Jake and Emily, casual, flirty, and intimate, nothing explicit, but enough to make my heart shatter. He'd been sharing ideas and dreams with her that he never mentioned to me. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, feeling tears burn my cheeks. Was I just a placeholder until he could fully move on? Had I built his company only to lose his heart? The next morning, I confronted him again, this time with the truth I'd uncovered. He sighed and said, "Emma, I didn't want to hurt you. But Emily, she understands me in ways you don't. This business is complicated." Complicated. That word would haunt me for months to come, because while I was busy building his empire, I was losing the man I loved, piece by piece, to the ghost of his past. After that painful conversation, I tried to convince myself that maybe Jake was right. Maybe Emily really did have more experience, and I was just being overly sensitive. I threw myself into the business even harder, hoping to prove my worth, not just to Jake, but to myself. I spent sleepless nights drafting proposals, researching market trends, and managing social media campaigns. I was determined to be indispensable. But the more I gave, the more distant Jake seemed. His calls became shorter, his smiles less genuine. One afternoon, I stopped by the office unannounced, hoping to surprise him. Instead, I found Emily sitting comfortably in Jake's chair, laughing at something he said. Their easy camaraderie felt like a slap across my face. "Emma," Jake said when he saw me, his voice tight. "I didn't expect you." I forced a smile, but inside, my heart was breaking all over again. Emily didn't even look up. "Hey," she said, barely masking the smugness in her tone. I swallowed my pride and asked Jake if we could talk privately. In his office, behind closed doors, I confronted him. "Why did you really hire her? Why does she get to be part of everything when I was the one who stood by you from day one?" He avoided my gaze. "She brings skills that I need to take the company to the next level. It's nothing personal, but it is personal. It hurts, Jake. I feel like I'm losing you." He finally looked at me, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. "Emma, you're amazing. But this is a business decision." Those words echoed in my mind like a cruel verdict. Over the next few weeks, things only got worse. Jake and Emily's partnership grew stronger. They spent late nights together, strategizing, planning. I was often the last to know, the outsider in my own relationship. One evening, I walked into the office to find Jake and Emily celebrating a big client win. Emily's hand brushed Jake's arm, and he didn't pull away. I turned and left without a word, tears blurring my vision. That night, I lay awake, questioning everything. Had I really been just a stepping stone for Jake? Was my love and effort nothing more than background noise to his ambition? The hardest part was realizing that sometimes people change, and sometimes the people we love choose others over us, for reasons we may never fully understand. Days blurred into nights as I struggled to hold myself together. The business I helped build felt like a battlefield, and I was losing ground. I tried talking to Jake again, hoping for some honesty, some reassurance, but every conversation left me more confused and broken. One afternoon, I found an email accidentally left open on Jake's laptop. It was from Emily, bright, bubbly, full of plans for their exciting future. My heart sank. It wasn't just about business anymore. There was something else, a connection I wasn't a part of. I confronted Jake that evening. "Are you and Emily?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, Emma. We've been seeing each other for a while." The words felt like a punch to the gut. I had been blindsided, betrayed by the man I loved and trusted the most. "How could you?" I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Jake looked remorseful but distant. "I didn't mean to hurt you, it just happened." But to me, it felt deliberate, a choice he made to erase me from his life. And the worst part, I wasn't just his girlfriend, I was his partner, his business partner. And now, I was being replaced in both. I retreated from everything, the business meetings, the late night calls, even our friends. I couldn't face their pity or questions. I felt invisible, discarded. One night, sitting alone in our apartment, I found solace in my journal. Writing became my therapy, a way to sort through the chaos inside me. I wrote about the dreams Jake and I shared, the plans we made, and the painful reality that none of it was as real to him as it was to me. Slowly, I realized that I had to find strength within myself. Jake's betrayal was devastating, but it didn't define me. I had to rebuild, not just the business, but my self-worth. I reached out to my mentor, a woman named Claire who had guided me early on. She reminded me that my skills and passion were my own, not tied to anyone else's approval or betrayal. With Claire's support, I started laying the groundwork for my next move, a new business idea that was entirely mine. It was scary, stepping out alone, without Jake, but it was also freeing. I realized that sometimes the people who walk away aren't the ones who define your future. You do. As I made plans, I also found myself questioning everything about trust and loyalty. How easily can love turn into indifference? How quickly can someone rewrite your story? The pain was still fresh, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. This wasn't the end of my story, it was a new beginning. Starting over was both terrifying and exhilarating. I began working late nights, pouring my energy into creating a brand that was 100% mine. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Jake had connections, experience, and the advantage of a head start. But what I lacked in those, I made up for with pure determination. I rented a small office space downtown, a tiny but bright room with large windows where the morning sun streamed in. I decorated it with photos of my family, inspirational quotes, and sketches of my new ideas. This was my sanctuary now, a place where I could rebuild without shadows of the past, lurking in every corner. Early on, I reached out to my network, people I had met during my time working with Jake. Some were hesitant to get involved, not wanting to cross him or get caught in the drama. But a few believed in me, in my vision, and that meant everything. One of them was Marcus, an old college friend who had always admired my creativity and drive. He volunteered to help me with marketing strategy, and his enthusiasm was infectious. Slowly, the pieces of my new business began to fall into place. Even with progress, the emotional toll lingered. Every notification on my phone made my heart race. Was it Jake? Had Emily said something behind my back? Would I ever escape the feeling of betrayal? One afternoon, I bumped into Rachel, a mutual friend who had stayed silent through the chaos. Her eyes held sympathy but also a guarded distance. I heard what happened, Emma, she said quietly. I'm sorry. Thanks, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But you have to be careful. She warned. Jake's complicated and Emily isn't just some employee. She's part of something bigger. Her words confused me. What did she mean by bigger? That night, I dug deeper into Jake's past, his business dealings, and his connections. There were whispers of questionable partnerships and shortcuts taken to climb the ladder. Suddenly, it wasn't just about my heartbreak, it was about the ethics I had unknowingly supported. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how much I had invested in something toxic. My anger turned into resolve. This time, I wasn't just rebuilding a business. I was reclaiming my integrity. Meanwhile, Jake continued to avoid direct contact. When we did talk, his tone was cold, as if the years we shared were irrelevant. It hurt more than I expected. The indifference stung worse than anger. I reminded myself of the woman I was before Jake, the one who didn't need anyone's validation. Slowly, that woman began to emerge again, stronger and wiser. One day, as I was finalizing a pitch for potential investors, I got a message from Jake. Can we talk? It's important. I hesitated. Was this a sign of regret or just another manipulation? But I decided I deserved answers. I agreed to meet, with a cautious heart. The cafe where we met was nothing fancy, just a quiet corner spot Jake had picked. I arrived early, nervous but determined to keep my composure. When he walked in, his usual confident smile was replaced by something I couldn't quite read. Maybe regret, maybe hesitation. Emma? He started, voice low. I know things ended badly. I never wanted it to come to this. I took a deep breath. Then why did you hire Emily? Why did you choose her over me after everything? Jake looked down, running a hand through his hair. It's complicated. She has experience. I thought you'd understand. I thought you trusted me. Trust you? I almost laughed. You replaced me without a word. You didn't even tell me. I wasn't just your assistant or your employee. I helped you build that company from scratch. He looked up, eyes filled with something close to pain. I'm sorry, Emma. I really am. But I had to think about the business, about what was best for it. His words cut deep. But they also revealed something I hadn't seen before, his fear of failure. Maybe he wasn't just cold and selfish. Maybe he was scared. I realized then that this wasn't just about me or Emily. It was about him too. His own insecurities, his own demons. I'm done being your backup plan, I said firmly. I'm building something new. Something that doesn't rely on you or your choices. Jake nodded slowly. I respect that. We sat in silence for a moment. To people who once dreamed together but now walk separate paths. After that meeting, I threw myself even harder into my work. Every late night, every challenge became fuel for my fire. My team grew, my ideas took shape, and soon, I landed my first big client, a local startup eager for fresh marketing. The success felt sweeter because it was mine. No shortcuts, no betrayals, just pure hard work. But just as things started to look up, I heard rumors that Jake's company was struggling. Emily had left, and the experience Jake counted on turned out to be a disaster. Hearing that didn't bring satisfaction or revenge. Instead, I felt a quiet relief, a sign that I had made the right choice. Walking away, one evening, Marcus surprised me with news. Emma, you're getting noticed. Investors want to meet you. My heart soared from the ashes of betrayal. I was rising. I thought about everything, the heartbreak, the lies, the sleepless nights, and realized I wouldn't change a thing. Because without that pain, I wouldn't have found my strength. And as I looked out of my office window, watching the city lights flicker, I knew one thing for sure. This time, I was in control of my own story. The meetings with investors were intense. I had prepared my pitch 100 times in my head, but nothing could truly prepare me for the pressure in those boardrooms. Faces scrutinizing every word, every gesture. I could feel Jake's shadow hovering somewhere in the back of my mind, but I pushed it aside. This was my moment. Among the sea of suits and polished shoes, one man stood out. His name was Robert, a seasoned investor with a reputation for backing underdogs. After my presentation, he approached me, nodding thoughtfully. Emma, your vision is bold and your drive is evident. I'm interested, he said simply. For the first time since everything fell apart, hope stirred inside me. I finally had someone who believed in me, not because of my past connection to Jake, but because of who I was. Yet, despite the small victories, the scars Jake left didn't heal overnight. I found myself replaying memories, late nights, at the office, the laughter, the dreams we once shared. But underneath those memories was a sting of betrayal. One afternoon, as I sat in my new office, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jake. Can we talk? I owe you an explanation. I hesitated but agreed. Sometimes closure mattered more than pride. We met at the same cafe where everything started to unravel. This time, Jake looked tired, like the weight of his choices was finally catching up to him. I was scared, Emma, he admitted. Scared it wasn't good enough, that I'd lose everything if I didn't play it safe. Hiring Emily was a mistake, a way to protect myself, but I lost sight of what really mattered, you and the partnership we had. I listened quietly, my heart aching but guarded. I never stopped believing in you, he continued. I was just too blinded by fear to show it. I wanted to forgive him, to believe in the man I once loved. But I also knew that some wounds take longer to heal. I appreciate your honesty, Jake, I said softly. But I've moved on. I'm building something new. And this time, it's on my own terms. He nodded, understanding in his eyes as I walked away from that conversation. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The past was behind me, but its lessons remained etched in my soul. In the weeks that followed, my company grew stronger. The investors were on board, clients kept coming, and my team felt like a family. One evening, Robert called me unexpectedly. Emma, there's an opportunity, a partnership with a major brand. It's big and it's risky, but I believe in you. I smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning. Betrayal had nearly broken me, but instead it had forged a fire that no one could extinguish. And as I prepared for this next chapter, I promised myself, no matter what happened, I would never let anyone else define my worth again. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Preparing for the partnership meant long days, countless meetings, and revising every detail of the proposal. I could feel the pressure mounting. But for the first time, it was the kind of pressure that came from ambition and possibility, not heartbreak and betrayal. One late evening, as I sat in the office alone, my phone buzzed with a message from Emily, Jake's ex, the woman he had hired as his first employee. The name alone sparked a cold feeling inside me, but curiosity won. Congrats on the new partnership. The message read, looks like you're really making it. I didn't reply. Part of me wanted to confront her, to demand why she'd come back into my life like this, stirring up old wounds. But I knew better. This was her game, and I wasn't going to play instead. I focused on what mattered, building my business and proving to myself that I was more than just a stepping stone in Jake's story. But life has a way of testing your resolve. At a company event, I overheard whispers, some friendly, some not, about Jake and Emily. Rumors of their perfect working relationship, their apparent success. It stung, but I refused to let it break me. I reminded myself why I was here. I was no longer the woman who gave everything away and was left with nothing. I was a woman who rose from the ashes and claimed her power. One night, Robert invited me to a private dinner with potential partners. It was a chance to network, to impress, and to secure the future of my company. I dressed carefully, rehearsed my pitch, and walked into the room with confidence. As the evening unfolded, I found myself talking to influential people, sharing my vision and my passion. The energy was electric, and I felt truly alive. Then, across the room, I saw Jake. He looked different, more confident, perhaps. But there was a flicker of something else in his eyes when he saw me. Regret, admiration. I wasn't sure. Our eyes met briefly, and I held my gaze. No words were exchanged. But in that moment, one knew I had the upper hand. Later, as I left the event, Robert pulled me aside. Emma, you handled yourself brilliantly tonight. These people are impressed, and more importantly, they believe in you. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to hope. But just as I was about to celebrate this victory, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Emily. Enjoy your moment, Emma. It won't last. I stared at the screen, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. Her words were meant to shake me, to make me doubt myself. But instead, they fueled my fire. I replied simply, watch me. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized that the path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, betrayals, and heartbreak. But I was ready, because this time I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting for my dreams, my dignity, and my future. The days following that tense evening were filled with a mix of exhilaration and unease. The partnerships I had been nurturing were finally coming to fruition. And yet, every success felt shadowed by the looming presence of Jake and Emily. Robert and I were working closely, often late into the night. Our conversations moved beyond business. I found in him not just a mentor, but a friend who believed in my vision and, more importantly, in me. His encouragement became a beacon through the darkness that Jake's betrayal had left behind. Still, Jake's presence lingered. At every industry event, his name was whispered alongside Emily's, their alliance seemingly unbreakable. I heard rumors that he was trying to undercut my efforts, spreading subtle doubts about my leadership and capabilities. One afternoon, I received a call from an old client. His voice was cautious, almost hesitant. Emma, there's some noise going around. People are asking questions about your recent projects and Jake's been mentioning your name. I took a deep breath. I appreciate you letting me know. I'll handle it. What I didn't say was that inside, my heart clenched. Betrayal had a way of seeping into every corner of your life, even the parts you thought were safe. Determined not to be undone, I reached out to Robert. Together, we devised a plan to counteract the rumors. We organized a public showcase of my company's latest innovations, inviting industry leaders, clients, and the press. It was bold, risky, but it was the moment I needed on the day of the event. I stood on stage, looking out at the crowd. As I spoke about the vision and the hard work behind every project, I felt a surge of confidence. This was my story, my fight, and no one else could tell it for me. After the presentation, as the applause echoed, I spotted Jake in the audience. His face was unreadable, but the coldness in his eyes was unmistakable. I held my head high, refusing to let his judgment define me. That evening, as the event wound down, Robert and I celebrated quietly. You own that stage, he said with a smile. They all saw who you really are. But just when I thought I could finally breathe, my phone buzzed with a text that stopped me cold. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk, Jake. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. After everything, why now? What could he possibly want? I debated ignoring it, but curiosity and a faint hope for closure won out. The next day, I arrived at the cafe where we had agreed to meet. Jake was already there, his expression guarded. I owe you an explanation, he began. Hiring Emily wasn't about her experience. It was complicated. I folded my arms, skeptical. Then what was it, Jake? Because it sure felt like a betrayal. He sighed, looking away. I didn't know how to tell you. We have a history that I thought would help the business. I thought you'd understand. Understand? I echoed. You built me up just to tear me down. His eyes filled with regret. I never wanted to hurt you. But the damage was done. I stood up, ready to leave. Wait, he said, grabbing my arm gently. Please, just hear me out. I hesitated but nodded. Jake took a deep breath and revealed a secret I hadn't expected. One that changed everything I thought I knew about our past and his decisions. Jake's eyes searched mine, pleading for understanding. Emily and we were engaged years ago. Before I even met you, when we parted ways, it wasn't clean. I never told you because I wanted to protect what we had, us. But when I hired her, I thought it was purely professional. I didn't expect old feelings to resurface. I sat there, stunned. The tangled web of lies suddenly made a cruel kind of sense. You never told me because you were hiding her from me. And that's betrayal, no matter how you spin it. He nodded, voice cracking. I know I hurt you. I messed up. But the business needed her. She has the connections, the experience. And I thought you'd be okay with it. That you trust me. Trust, I repeated, my voice shaking. You shattered that the moment you chose her over me. Over everything we built together. Jake's face crumpled with guilt. I'm sorry, I should have been honest. I was scared of losing you. But I ended up losing both you and myself. The cafe felt smaller, the space between us heavier than ever. I realized then how much I had sacrificed, not just my time and effort, but my belief in him. Maybe you did, I said quietly. But it's time I believe in myself. I helped you build your dream. But now I'm building my own. For the first time in months, a sense of relief washed over me. The weight of his betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined me. We stood up. An unspoken understanding between us that some bridges were burned and some paths must be walked. Alone, walking away from Jake was hard, but necessary. In the weeks that followed, I poured all my energy into my company. The setback became a catalyst for growth. With Robert's support and my own resilience, the business flourished. At industry events, people now recognized me as a force to be reckoned with, not just Jake's girlfriend. I'd earned my place on my own terms. And then, one chilly December evening, as snow softly blanketed the city, I received a package at my office. Inside was a framed photo of my first product launch, a reminder of how far I'd come. Attached was a note in Jake's handwriting. You were always the heart of this dream. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I hope you find happiness with or without me. I smiled sadly, tucking the note away. That Christmas, surrounded by friends and family, I realized that true success wasn't just about business. It was about finding strength within myself, rising above betrayal, and never losing sight of my own worth. Jake was a chapter, not the whole story, and as a new year dawned, so did a new me, independent, empowered, and ready for whatever came next.